In this video, we're going to introduce the relational operators and the simple if statement. The relational operators are used to compare two quantities, and they are shown here in comments at the top of this program. If we're comparing two things to see if they are equal, then we use the double equal sign together. This special exclamation point followed by an equal is used to compare things to see if they are not equal. We have the triangular brace pointing to the right for greater than, pointing to the left for less than, and you can combine the greater than and less than with equals to test greater than or equal. So these are 6 new relational operators, and the result of these comparisons are always going to be either true or false. We're also going to introduce the if statement, which will employ these relational expressions, and this will give us the capability to put some decision-making capability in our programs. So we can test something, and if it's true, we'll do something, and if it's false, we'll do something different. So this gives us some great power. Alrighty, with this simple outline of a program, we have declared two integers, just num1 and num2. We are going to prompt our users to enter two numbers, and we have the scanf to read those in. And then we will just have our typical printf that will write these two numbers back to the screen. Now this simple program is just going to go through each of those 6 relational operators, and it'll give a comparison of those two numbers, num1 and num2. So we're going to quickly go through this. The syntax of the if begins with the word if. Then in parentheses we will put a relational expression that involves these relational operators. So for the first one, let's just see if they are equal to each other. So if num1 equals num2, then we'll follow this with a curly brace and another curly brace, and we'll have a block of code. So this is the simplest form of the if statement. So if this expression turns out to be true, then whatever code we put here between the curly braces will be executed. If this happens to evaluate to false, then we're going to skip over this block altogether and then proceed with the bottom part of the program. Okay, so if it's true, do the code. Okay, if this is false, skip over and continue past the bottom curly brace. So that's all there is to this. So if this evaluates to true, let's just put a printf in here. Printf, okay, double quote, and let's say, okay, num1 is equal to num2. All right. So let me see. Let's make these same little case here. So, because num1 is equal to num2, backslash n, double quote, right paren, and a semicolon. All right. So that's pretty simple. If they're equal, then we'll output this value. If they're not equal, then we'll skip over it. Well, just given that much, let's go ahead and compile and run the program to show what happens here. So I'm going to build it. Okay, I had to tell it to overwrite the file that was already out there, so that's why we got the warning. Okay, but it built, and we're now ready to run the program. We have the prompt, please enter 2 values. Let's move this over here. So I'm going to enter 2 values that are equal, 5 space 5, and type enter. The output says you entered 5 and 5. Num1 is equal to num2. All right. Well, the num1 is equal to num2 comes from here inside the if statement. So because 5 equals 5 is true, we did execute that printf statement. I'm going to press any key to continue to terminate the program, and I'll run it again. This time we'll enter 2 values that are not equal. So let's enter a value of 4 and a value of 6. I entered 4 and 6, it tells me, and it just says press any key to continue. What that means is this if statement turned out to be false. 4 equals 6 is false, so I didn't print out num1 is equal to num2. Okay, so we just went straight to press any key to continue, which means we skipped over that block of code and we came down here. Alright, so that illustrates how the if statement works. Now let's go through and add the other if statements to test all those other relational operators. Now, to save time, I'm going to copy and paste this if statement. So I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it here. And we're going to test not equals. So we'll replace the equals relational operator with not equals. So that's the exclamation point with an equal. Then we'll change our printf statement. num1 is not equal to num2. So if this turns out to be true, we'll output this print statement. Now let's go ahead and add the other relational expressions or relational operators. So I'm going to paste the if statement again, and we're going to test greater than. Okay, if num1 is greater than num2, we'll print num1 is greater than num2. Let's paste the if statement once again. So this will get us through 4 of the tests, and we'll make this one less than. So let's make the less than operator here. So if this turns out to be true, then num1 will be less than. Let's change the printf. Num1 is less than num2. And we have 2 more to go. And we're going to make this one the greater than or equal to operator. And if this turns out to be true, we will print out num1 is greater than or equal. Okay, so in this case we can have really 2 possibilities. Okay, if num1 is 6, num2 is 4, then this will be true. In that case it would be greater. Or if they happen to be equal, if num1 is 6 and num2 is 6, this will be true, and it will print this out. So with this relational operator, you can test kind of for 2 things. If it's greater than, it's true. If it's equal to, it's true. Okay, then our final if statement here for the last operator will be less than or equal to. So we'll put in the left-facing triangular brace. And if this turns out to be true, then num1 is going to be less than or equal to. So this illustrates all of those relational operators, and it just shows you in a series of 6 simple if statements how to use them. Now let's build this and run the program with some different values. So let's do move my window a little bit there. Okay, so let's build. Build succeeded. Let's run the program. And let's enter some values. Well, first of all, let's enter 2 values that are equal. So let's put in 4 and 4. So we entered 4 and 4, and then we get 3 outputs. num1 is equal to num2. Num1 is greater than or equal to num2. Num1 is less than or equal to num2. So if we look back, we have 6 if statements in our program, but only 3 of them turned out to be true. So since I entered 2 equal numbers, then that if statement turned out to be true with the following printf statement. This one is false because they are not equal to each other would be false. Okay, one is not greater than the other, so greater than is false, and this one is false for less than. But the bottom 2 turn out to be true. Since they are equal, num1 greater than or equal to num2 is true, and num1 less than or equal to num2 is true. So that's why we get these 3 outputs. Num1 is equal to num2, it's greater than or equal, it's less than or equal. Okay, great. Let's run the program again, and let's enter some values that are different. All right, so this time let's enter 5 and 8. All right, so the second number is going to be larger. Okay, enter. I entered 5 and 8. Num1 is not equal to num2. So again, we get 3 lines of output. So 3 things are true, 3 are not. So num1 is not equal to num2. That's true. Num1 is less than num2. That's true. Num1 is also less than or equal to num2. So that one is true. All right, so in this case, equal turns out to be false. They're different numbers, so this is false. We do not get this printf. We do get this one. Num1 is not equal to num2. That's true. So we print out that little block of code with the printf in it. Okay, num1 greater than num2. No, 5 is not greater than 8. But this one is true. 5 was less than 8, so we did print out num1's less than num2. Okay, num1 is not greater than 8. Num1's not equal to 8, so this one was false. And finally, the bottom one is true because num1 was 5, which is less than 8. So that makes this one true, and we print out num1 is less than or equal to num2. So that's how we get those three outputs. Not equal, less than or equal. Let's run this a third time, and we'll make our first number larger. So in this case, let's make the first one larger. So let's make it 8, and we'll make the second number 5. So num1 is 8, num2 is 5. And this time we get some similar output. They're not equal. Num1 is not equal to num2. Num1 is greater than num2 in this case. Okay, then num1 is 8, num2 is 5. And also num1 is greater than or equal to num2. So again, we have 3 of the if statements were true, and we have the 3 lines of output. 3 of them were false, so we skipped over the code and didn't get any output. This illustrates also the simple version of the if statement. And that's all we're going to do with this little program. So this will conclude the video for the simple if statement and these new relational operators.